10 terrifying cases of Havana Syndrome. Imagine you're struck by an invisible force. One moment, you're fine. The next, your life is forever changed by a mysterious illness that has the world as top investigators completely baffled. For hundreds of American and Canadian diplomats, spies, and their families, this isn't a movie. It's their reality. They report being hit by an unseen energy, often paired with a bizarre, targeted sound that leaves them with crippling neurological symptoms. This phenomenon, which the U.S. government now calls Anomalous Health Incidents, or AHIs, first appeared in Cuba in late 2016 and has since popped up across the globe. But what is it? A new kind of weapon? A strange environmental reaction? Or something else entirely? Official answers are hard to come by, but the personal stories are harrowing. Today, we're counting down 10 of the most terrifying cases of Havana Syndrome. Section 10. The Ground Zero Incident. Havana, 2016. Our countdown begins with the case that gave the syndrome its name. It all started in late 2016 in Havana, Cuba. American and Canadian officials at their embassies began reporting a series of bizarre and frightening experiences. Many described hearing a high-pitched, piercing sound in their homes and hotel rooms. One of the first to report, later nicknamed Patient Zero, described hearing the strange noise and, at the same time, feeling an intense, crushing pressure in his head and severe ear pain. What came next was a devastating mix of symptoms: debilitating headaches, dizziness, nausea, memory loss, and balance problems. The incidents were so alarming that the U.S. eventually pulled most of its staff from the embassy. At first, theories flew from sonic attacks to faulty surveillance gear, and even the sound of local crickets, a theory that was mostly dismissed as new cases appeared worldwide. These first cases in Havana opened a Pandora's box of medical mystery and geopolitical tension that continues to this day. Section 9. The Canadian Children. The horror in Havana didn't stop with adult diplomats and spies. Our 9th spot focuses on the victims who are often overlooked, their children. Several Canadian families stationed in Cuba reported that their kids were also suffering from strange and serious symptoms. One Canadian diplomat said he and his family were woken up in the middle of the night by a loud, unusual sound. Afterwards, his sons started having nosebleeds, dizziness, headaches, and even fainting. Another female diplomat described how her young son complained of dizziness and hearing problems, while her daughter had migraines and vision issues. In a lawsuit later filed against the Canadian government, diplomats claimed that Ottawa didn't do enough to protect them and their families. One official stated that a newly arrived single mother was never told that children had been affected, only for her and her son to fall ill shortly after moving to Cuba. These stories are a chilling reminder that whatever was happening in Havana, it was indiscriminate, affecting even the youngest and most vulnerable. Section 8. The syndrome spreads to Asia. Guangzhou, 2017. At number 8, we see the frightening global spread of the phenomenon. By 2017 and 2018, the mystery was no longer just in Cuba. U.S. officials at the American consulate in Guangzhou, China, started reporting experiences that were eerily similar to those in Havana. One American diplomat, Marc, a State Department security officer, said his symptoms got progressively worse, including severe headaches and alarming short-term memory loss. Another diplomat recalled hearing strange, indistinct sounds in his apartment building, followed by headaches and memory problems that began in late 2017. The situation got so bad that several staff members were medically evacuated from China back to the U.S. for evaluation. The appearance of cases in a second country, especially a global power like China, confirmed investigators' worst fears. This wasn't an isolated incident. An unknown phenomenon was now showing up in multiple locations thousands of miles apart, suggesting a pattern that was both deliberate and expanding. Section 7. The Vienna Outbreak, Vienna, Austria, a historic hub for diplomacy and espionage, is the setting for our seventh terrifying case. In 2021, the city became a new hotspot for anomalous health incidents. Nearly 24 U.S. officials, including diplomats and intelligence officers, reported symptoms that matched Havana Syndrome. This cluster was one of the largest since the first incidents in Cuba. Vienna hosts many international organizations and is often the location for sensitive negotiations, like the Iran nuclear deal talks. The high number of cases in such a critical diplomatic city set off alarms across the U.S. government. The situation was so tense that it reportedly led to the recall of the CIA station chief in Vienna, following criticism of the response to the growing health crisis among the staff. The Vienna outbreak was proof that wherever American spies and diplomats gathered, they could be targets of this invisible threat. Section 6. Attack on home soil, Washington, D.C. For years, the threat seemed to be something that happened over there, in embassies and foreign posts. But our sixth case brings the terror right to the United States. Multiple incidents have been reported in Washington, D.C. itself, some just a stone's throw from the White House. One of the most well-known accounts came from a former Homeland Security Advisor, Olivia Troy, who reported symptoms consistent with the syndrome while working in the Eisenhower Executive Office building, right next to the West Wing. In another widely reported incident, a National Security Council staffer was allegedly struck with symptoms near the Ellipse, the large lawn south of the White House. He reportedly developed such severe vertigo and nausea that he had to be helped to a nearby hospital. The idea that these events could happen in the heart of the U.S. Capitol, in broad daylight, was a terrifying escalation. It showed that nowhere was truly safe, and that the architects of these incidents, whoever they are, could seemingly operate with impunity on American soil. These stories are deeply unsettling, and we're only halfway through our list. The invisible nature of these incidents is what makes them uniquely terrifying. Which case do you find most disturbing so far? Let us know in the comments below. Section 5. The Diplomat's Ordeal. The story of Tina Onifer. Coming in at number 5 is the harrowing personal story of Tina Onifer, a career Foreign Service officer who was among the first victims in Havana. One night in 2017, Onifer was at her kitchen window washing dishes while her children played upstairs. Suddenly, she was overwhelmed. In an interview, she described it this way: "I felt like I was being struck with something. It was as if I had been seized by some invisible hand, and I couldn't move. The pain was immediate and overpowering, mostly in her head and eyes. In the years since, her life has been turned upside down. She's battled debilitating health problems, and her once promising career was cut short." She said, "People don't understand what this kind of brain damage can do to you. So it's very easy for people to be dismissive and say, 'But you look fine.' But the reality is, I'm not." Section 4. The Spy Who Wouldn't Be Silenced, Marc Polymeropoulos. Our fourth case involves one of the highest-ranking officials to speak out, Marc Polymeropoulos, a decorated 26-year CIA veteran who ran clandestine operations around the world. In December 2017, during a trip to Moscow, his life changed in an instant. He woke up in his hotel room with vertigo so intense the room was spinning, accompanied by a terrible ringing in his ears. "It was terrifying," he said, "and I was in serious distress." Back in the U.S., his fight was just getting started. He said his initial reports were dismissed, and he struggled to get the medical care he needed from the agency he served his entire adult life. He suffered from a constant headache that felt like a vice on his head. Eventually, he was treated at Walter Reed Military Hospital, where doctors diagnosed him with a traumatic brain injury. Polymeropoulos, who had to take an early retirement, believes he was targeted by the Russians. His decision to speak out has brought major attention to the plight of intelligence officers hit by the syndrome, highlighting their battle not just for their health, but for recognition and accountability. At number 3 is an incident that highlighted the real-world geopolitical fallout of the syndrome. In August 2021, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris was scheduled for a diplomatic visit to Hanoi, Vietnam. At least 2 U.S. diplomats in Hanoi had to be medically evacuated after experiencing symptoms of Havana Syndrome right before the vice president was due to arrive. The events were described as anomalous health incidents and sparked an immediate security review. The choice to delay the arrival of the Vice President of the United States showed just how seriously the threat was being taken at the highest levels of government. Our second most terrifying case isn't a single person, but the collective agonizing fight victims have waged for a medical diagnosis. The symptoms are severe and life-altering: headaches, dizziness, cognitive problems, and insomnia. Early studies of some Canadian patients showed evidence of changes to their brains, specifically a decrease in white matter fiber density. But then, a pair of large, multi-year studies by the National Institutes of Health, or NIH, published in March 2024, delivered a stunningly different result. Using highly advanced MRI scans, researchers found no significant evidence of brain injury or biological abnormalities that could set the AHI patients apart from a healthy control group. Still, the NIH researchers were clear that their findings didn't dismiss the patient's suffering. One lead author stated, "These symptoms are very real, cause significant destruction in the lives of those affected, and can be quite prolonged, disabling, and difficult to treat." In a significant finding, the studies noted that 41% of the AE participants met the criteria for functional neurological disorders, or FNDs, real, debilitating conditions where there's a problem with how the brain functions, rather than its structure. This medical puzzle is at the heart of the terror for victims. They are left with devastating conditions that science, so far, can't fully see or explain. And the number one most terrifying case is the sprawling, inconclusive, and deeply divisive investigation itself. This void has been filled with competing theories and rising geopolitical tension. Journalistic investigations by 60 Minutes, Germany's Der Spiegel, and The Insider have uncovered evidence suggesting a link to a specific Russian intelligence unit, known as 29,155, which has reportedly experimented with non-lethal acoustic weapons. The Kremlin has repeatedly denied these accusations, calling them baseless. Meanwhile, the official U.S. intelligence assessment remains deeply split. Five of the 7 intelligence agencies involved stood by this conclusion in an updated January 2025 assessment. However, in a twist that keeps the mystery alive, 2 agencies dissented, stating with low confidence that a foreign power may have developed a weapon capable of causing the injuries, citing new evidence of progress in foreign-directed energy research. This official stalemate leaves hundreds of victims, with over 330 qualifying for specialized military care in limbo. They are public servants struck down by a mysterious ailment, but the government they served can't say for sure if they're patients or if they're casualties of an undeclared war. Conclusion from the embassy in Havana to the streets of Washington, D.C. The saga of Havana Syndrome is one of the most frightening and unresolved mysteries of our time. These are spies, diplomats, and their family members left to navigate a maze of agonizing symptoms, medical confusion, and official ambiguity. The search for answers is still being driven by the resilience of the victims, who refuse to let their stories be forgotten. But until a cause is found, the terrifying question remains: what is this invisible force, and where will it strike next? Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's greatest mysteries. We'll see you next time.